This is Mark Taylor from Christian Standard Magazine. Just grabbed Ken Davis, who has finished about 4 hours of teaching here at the North American Christian Convention. He's had quite a ministry here, and we're so glad to grab him and talk to him here on the NACC floor for just a couple of minutes before he heads back home to Nashville. Thanks, Ken, for taking the time.
It's my pleasure.
So he saw the big sign on our wall that said ChristianStandard.com. He said, "Is this the Standard Publishing that I used to use as a little kid?" And I said, "Yeah, it is."
As a little boy, I grew up in northern Minnesota, went to a tiny little church. And it's funny, I can't remember what I had for breakfast, but I do remember on the little lessons that we got, there were a single page, and it was Standard Publishing. It was I remembered it. So I was very surprised to find out same thing. That's wonderful.
Now, was it funny? Because you're funny.
Was the lessons funny?
Yeah.
No, they were pretty basic. My teacher was funny, but they were very basic. It would take a verse and I remember that very well.
Sure. So how long you been working solo in your ministry? Forever?
Oh no, 1975 is I think when I went solo. I worked with Youth for Christ before that.
Okay.
And the demand for people asking for me to come and speak became so great that I couldn't ignore it anymore. So I jumped out in faith, and God has been so faithful. Last year, at 66 years old, the most ministry, the most expansion ever in our history. And I don't understand, except it's a great God, and He's still got His hand of blessing on it.
Well, I was going to ask you, what do you see something in the culture, something in the church, something in the country that's driving this, do you think?
Well, first of all, I do believe that in the country there's a tremendous hunger for authenticity. There is a tremendous hunger for, what am I looking for? For some kind of anchor that'll hold. You know, we live in a society that teaches that whatever you believe is okay, but nobody wants to live like that. It's like a friend of mine used to tell a story about taking a little boy into to initiate him into the Boy Scouts. They would take him into a room blindfolded in an old cabin that had a dirt floor, and they would have him drop a rock into a big old well. And it was a long time before the rock would hit the water. Then they would leave him there blindfolded. And without exception, the little boy would not move, except if he took his blindfold off, because he didn't know where the holes were. And that's what we have, an entire generation of people today who don't know where the holes are. And they're paralyzed. Either that or they're living in tremendous danger because they're running around pretending like there are no holes. So, yeah, that's a long story to answer a short question.
I think a lot of people that see this will resonate with it.
Yes.
So you're working on a project now, or you're presenting a project now called Fully Alive.
Fully Alive, yes.
Tell us how it came to be and what it's all about.
Well, this sprang out of a change in my own life. God opened my eyes to the fact that as a successful minister, a successful comedian, successful in every sense of the word, God had given me all of my dreams. We made a motion picture. The motion picture hadn't been made yet, but I was very successful. And unconsciously, subconsciously to me, I stopped leaning on the one that I was talking about and teaching about, and began to lean on the perks of my success. My weight exploded to 60 pounds overweight. My life became undisciplined. And I spent a lot of time in depression. You know, you can't quit. You can't coast. People who coast die. I have a saying, a body in motion tends to stay in motion, and a body at rest tends to rest in peace. So God isn't done with us until the fat lady sings, and she hasn't even come out of her room yet.
So what's Fully Alive about?
Fully Alive is about this journey. It talks about my granddaughter being lost in the mountains, which was really the culmination of God whispering, "You've got to share this message with other people." It's about what happened to bring me back to life. When she was found 2.5 miles above our campsite, not a campground, wilderness campsite, there were 14,000-foot mountains in every direction. And she was found in heavy, heavy brush because a teacher spotted her. When she was found, she broke down crying and said, "My grandpa's lost." And in the book I say, in a sense, she was right. But I was about to be found, and I want you to come on this journey with me. So it's got amazing stories of people who have lost everything, but have hung on to the one thing that's important. It's got amazing stories about how God saved us, saved my family, and brought us through those difficult valleys of the shadow of death. And it's just a book filled with encouragement. St. Irenaeus said, the glory of God is man fully alive. Of course, woman is included in that too. But we live more like what David Thoreau is accredited with saying, we lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with our song still in us. Mm-hmm. We work hard all our lives so that we can retire to a life of leisure. Mm-hmm. You know, Anne Lamont's dad said, the greatest leisure of all is death. And God never intended for any of this. We're not done. Mm-hmm. And we had a 72-year-old woman in our class this morning. Were you there? Did you happen to hear her?
No, didn't get to hear her.
She said, I've been teaching and speaking in moms groups, but I'm 72 years old. Do you think it would be okay if I went back in and began to teach again and do what my heart just thrills doing? And the place erupted in applause. And of course I screamed, do it, do it, do it. God isn't done with you. It's amazing how people have responded. Literally tens of thousands of people have said this has changed their lives.
This is pretty heavy stuff for a comedian, it occurs to me.
Yes and no. All of it's filled with an awful lot of humor. And the truth of the matter is that all comedy comes out of truth. You know, someone defined humor as a gentle way to acknowledge human frailty. Mm-hmm. Well, hello, here it sits in person. And it opens up people's hearts to listen to the truth. Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. We have an entire curriculum. You know, we have the book. It went to theater. We made a motion picture. It went to theaters all around the country, and now it's on DVD and available on what do they call that thing? Netflix.
Oh yeah,
it's available on Netflix.
Cool.
We get letters from people who have never heard of us, but were surfing and saw the thing on Netflix, watched it, and so I'm delighted. It is the focus of the rest of my life to help men and women live fully alive and glorify God.
Now, your website is very, very encouraging.
Yes.
I really enjoyed reading through it. KenDavis.com,
yep.
Is that right? KenDavis.com?
KenDavis.com.
It's very, very encouraging. Do you work with a team to put that together?
Well, I don't know. I still can't get the frog across the road when it comes to computers. Younger people won't know what that means. The ping pong things, I can't do any of that.
Yeah.
So other people build that, but I write that material.
It's good.
I write all of that material. The hardest words in the world to say, I need help. Mm-hmm. And in my book, I talk about those 3 words were words that saved my life. Mm-hmm. I need help. Mm-hmm. And those aren't words of weakness. Those are words of strength. Mm-hmm. It's the beginning of faith when we come to God and say, I need help.
Well, it's very encouraging. There's a lot of really positive things. And over on the right-hand side, you've got all those most positive, most favorite posts.
Right.
And some of those are really, really winners.
Yes.
So if we go to KenDavis.com, can we find out more about Fully Alive?
Yeah, the book is on there. The curriculum is on there. Everything you'd want to know, and some things you wished you had never seen in your life. Just fun things about real life and real family. Every Monday we post a little video clip from our comedy videos, Lighten Up. And it's just a short clip. We get tons of response and all kinds of shares on that. So I think people will really enjoy it.
So what are you doing next after you leave here?
I'm going on a cruise to Alaska.
Cool.
Yeah, first I'm going home for 1 day. And then I go on a cruise to Alaska. And there's my son-in-law leads a gospel group called Legacy 5. We're going to be there touring up to Alaska on the Inside Passage. And then after that, we leave for Colorado, and I take a little bit of a break. The mountains are my favorite place in the whole world. Mm-hmm. So I will be spending times hiking in the mountains, climbing some 14,000-foot peaks.
Wow.
Hunting elk with a bow and arrow, just having a great time, and experiencing the presence of God in those very, very places. In those mountains, I will walk past an altar that I built, where we had to tie a ribbon showing the rescue team where Jaden had last been seen. And I built an altar there in gratefulness of God that he's faithful all the time, even if she hadn't been found.
Sure.
And that's what some of the people taught me interviewed in the book, people whose granddaughters and daughters and sometimes entire families were lost. And they begged me to tell people that God is good all the time.
Well, he's obviously been good to you. You had a whole banquet hall full of probably 500 people there laughing, and then with rapt attention to your message of hope, Ken.
Yeah.
We're so glad that you came to the North American Christian Convention.
Well, it has been a privilege. I've met so many wonderful people here. And to meet the people who supplied me with some of the stuff that anchored me in the faith, that's especially very fun.
That brings it all together.
Yep.
Thanks again, Ken.
Thank you.